Have you ever witnessed a moment so shocking, so unjust, that your heart pounds against your chest, your breath shortens, and your entire body aches with anger? This is one of those stories, one that begins with flashing red and blue lights on an empty highway at night, but ends in a way no one expected. A story where those sworn to protect and serve reveal the ugliest face of prejudice, and the victim turns out to be someone far more powerful, far more respected, than anyone could have imagined. Imagine, for just a moment, being a decorated general of the United States military, a black woman who has spent her entire life proving her strength, her discipline, her loyalty to her country. She has commanded thousands, strategized victories, and stood shoulder to shoulder with world leaders. Yet, on one lonely stretch of road, with no cameras and no witnesses, she becomes just another target of racism cloaked in a badge. Tonight, you will hear how the chains of injustice wrapped themselves around a woman who dedicated her life to freedom, and how a single phone call, her call, would change everything. It was close to midnight when General Naomi Daniels drove her sleek black SUV down Highway 47. The road was almost deserted, lit only by flickering lamps and the glow of her dashboard. Naomi, 50 years old but still carrying herself with the sharp poise of a soldier half her age, had just finished delivering a keynote address at a leadership conference. The speech was about resilience, about how women, especially women of color, could rise in a world that often underestimated them. Applause had followed her, reporters had shaken her hand, and young cadets had lined up for photos. But now, with the adrenaline fading, she just wanted to get home, kick off her polished shoes, and call her daughter before bed. As she hummed along to the soft gospel track playing on her radio, a pair of headlights loomed in her rearview mirror. Within seconds, red and blue lights exploded against the darkness. Naomi frowned, instinctively checking her speedometer. 58 in a 65 zone. No weaving, no broken taillights, nothing. She slowed down and carefully pulled to the side, her military-trained composure never faltering. Two police cruisers screeched to a halt behind her. The doors flew open, and two white officers emerged, one stocky with a shaved head, the other lanky with a twitch in his jaw. They moved quickly, hands on their weapons, as if they were approaching a dangerous fugitive. Naomi rolled down her window, keeping her hands clearly visible on the steering wheel. "Good evening, officers," she said, her voice steady. "Is there a problem? Step out of the vehicle." The stocky one barked, ignoring her greeting. Naomi blinked. "Excuse me. Can you tell me what this stop is about? I said step out. Now." His voice was sharp, loaded with hostility. Naomi's military instincts told her not to escalate, but the anger bubbling inside her was hard to contain. She was used to commanding rooms full of generals, briefing presidents, not being barked at like a criminal on the roadside. Still, she unbuckled her seatbelt, raised her hands, and stepped out. The cold night air bit against her skin. The lanky officer circled around her SUV, shining a flashlight through the windows. The other kept his hand near his gun, eyes narrowed at Naomi. "Put your hands on the hood," he ordered. Naomi inhaled sharply. "Officer, with all due respect, I would like to know the reason for this stop before you." "Hands on the hood." The words cut through the night like a whip. Naomi's jaw tightened. She thought about her uniform neatly folded in the back of the SUV, the medals she had earned through decades of service, the photographs of her saluting with pride. None of that mattered here. To them, she was just a black woman on a dark road. She placed her palms on the hood, feeling the heat radiating from the engine. The lanky officer came around, muttering something under his breath, and before she could speak again, cold steel clamped around her wrists. The sound of handcuffs clicking shut echoed like a cruel insult. "Wait a damn minute," Naomi snapped, her composure cracking. "You have no cause to handcuff me. I haven't been told why I was stopped, and I haven't resisted in any way." "Ma'am, you're being detained for suspicious behavior," the stocky one said flatly. Suspicious behavior. That phrase stung worse than the cuffs biting into her skin. Suspicious. Her, a 4-star general of the U.S. Army. A woman who had devoted her life to defending freedom, who had lost soldiers under her command, who had stared down enemies in war zones and never flinched. As rage coursed through her, Naomi remembered something her late father used to say: "Injustice doesn't ask for permission. It just shows up and dares you to fight." Her father, a veteran of the civil rights movement, had been beaten by police in the 60s. And now, Decades later, his daughter stood in his shoes, humiliated under flashing lights. But Naomi Daniels was not a woman who surrendered easily. As the officers tugged her roughly toward the cruiser, she twisted her head and spoke in a voice that carried the authority of a commander. "You need to understand something. I am General Naomi Daniels of the United States Army. I outrank almost everyone you will ever meet in your life. If you don't release me this second, you will regret it." The stocky cop scoffed. "Yeah, and I'm the president. Save it." He shoved her toward the car. Naomi gritted her teeth. She knew this was not just about her rank, it was about power, perception, and prejudice. These men didn't see her accomplishments, her sacrifices, her leadership. They only saw the color of her skin. But what they didn't know was that Naomi had one powerful weapon left, her phone, tucked in her jacket pocket. And in a single, desperate move, she shifted her cuffed hands just enough to press the side button. Voice command activated. The phone listened. "Call Defense Secretary Williams," she commanded. The officers froze. What the hell did she just say? The lanky one muttered. Her phone began dialing. The line rang once, twice, and then clicked. "General Daniels. It's late, what's happening?" The secretary's voice filled the silence. Naomi didn't hesitate. Her tone was calm but laced with steel. "Mr. Secretary, I've been pulled over by local police. I am currently in handcuffs, without explanation, treated as a criminal. I need you to listen carefully." The officers exchanged stunned glances. Their arrogance wavered for the first time, replaced by unease. "Naomi, where are you?" the secretary asked, his voice urgent. She recited the location with military precision. "Highway 47, marker 22. 2 officers. Both armed, both hostile. Stay calm. Don't say another word. Help is on the way." Naomi smiled faintly. For the first time since the flashing lights appeared, she felt a surge of power return to her. These men had no idea who they had just shackled. And as the sirens in the distance began to grow louder, signaling the arrival of federal escorts, Naomi Daniels knew this night was far from over. This was not just a wrongful arrest. This was a battle. A battle between prejudice and justice, between small-minded hate and towering dignity. And she was not going to lose. The wailing sirens grew louder until a black convoy of government SUVs roared onto Highway 47. The officers' smug confidence drained from their faces. They had expected to intimidate, to control, to write their own version of events. But now, reality had arrived, and it was bigger than their badges. The first SUV screeched to a halt, and out stepped men in dark suits, Secret Service agents with earpieces glinting under the flashing lights. Behind them, a tall figure emerged, his salt and pepper hair unmistakable even in the chaos, Secretary of Defense Harold Williams. The stocky officer's mouth fell open. "What the hell?" Williams marched forward, his face thunderous. "Uncuff her. Now." Naomi lifted her chin, her steel composure returning. She didn't need to speak, the presence of the secretary was enough. The lanky officer fumbled with the cuffs, his hands trembling as he released her wrists. The steel fell away, but the sting of humiliation lingered in her skin. Williams stepped close, his voice low but sharp enough for both cops to hear. "Do you two have any idea who you just assaulted? This is a 4-star general of the United States Army, one of the highest-ranking officers in the military. You have just disgraced your department, your uniforms, and your country.